was shocked. I always felt like I'd be shot.
Are you afraid to die?
Somebody would try to do me some harm.
Or do you want to live forever?
Because a lot of people don't like me.
Tell me, what's wrong?
They wanna bury me, I'm worried. I'm losing my mind. Look down the barrel of my 9 and my vision's blurry. Falling to pieces, am I guilty? I pray to the Lord, but he ignores me, unfortunately.
What's up guys, Kenan from kenanK TV here, and welcome back to another film study. I'm coming closer and closer to ending off the film study series. I think I have one more film study left, and that will be Conor McGregor's stamina. But before that one, I want to take a closer look at the pressure game. How both fighters approach fighting, and how much of a difference it will be this time around. We have two offensive fighters who always like to come forward facing each other. Now the question is going to become, who will be taking the first step backwards? With that being said, let's jump right into the video. You see, the fight is only a couple of days away, 9 days to be exact. And I've thought about the fight and how it's going to be playing out, and one thing that I never knew for a certainty is how Khabib Nurmagomedov was going to get to Conor McGregor. I always knew that Conor McGregor was going to be the one that will be controlling the distance. In this fight, whoever controls the distance is going to be the victorious fighter in my opinion. That's why I put in the beginning, one step backwards is one step closer to defeat. And if you think about it, that is really the case. If Conor McGregor gets a bit too close to the cage, you can expect Khabib to shoot in and try to get it to the ground, which he most likely will. But when people talk about this fight, they always talk about Conor catching Khabib. But I haven't seen anybody talk about what would happen if Conor was pressuring Khabib. What if Khabib was going to be the fighter that would be on the outside? You see, it's not so much about Conor catching Khabib as he's coming in. It is about Conor neutralizing Khabib and takes away the pressure from him. Now that is one big weakness in Khabib's game in my opinion. Every time that Khabib was on the outside or close to the cage, he felt and he looked out of his element. He was like a fish out of water. What makes this a lot more interesting is that unlike Conor's past opponents, Khabib is not as good as most of Conor's opponents in the stand-up department. That means that Khabib Nurmagomedov will be a lot more desperate and a lot more focused on the game plan. He knows he's not going to outstrike Conor, so the game plan to get it to the ground is going to be priority. So when he's backed up against the cage, unlike Eddie Alvarez to a certain extent, he's not going to be feeling as comfortable on the stand-up like Eddie Alvarez was. So because he's going to be feeling a lot more uncomfortable, he's going to be a lot more desperate to get the fight into the wrestling department. That is why this fight is very interesting.
If I could explain what goes on inside my head, believe me, I've tried.
It seems to me that this is one of the few things that people overlook in this fight. Yes, both fighters like to come forward. Yes, Conor McGregor is a great striker. Khabib is a great wrestler. Yes, that is all true. But when the fight starts off, I think immediately Conor McGregor will be coming forward and Khabib Nurmagomedov will be taking the outside of the octagon. He has shown this in numerous fights. I can bring up old fights where he did this and some other fights. But the most important thing is, you're only as good as your last fight. And in Khabib's last fight, he had shown great improvement in his striking. Yes, that is very true. But the same problem still lied in the beginning of the fight. When Iaquinta came forward, Khabib instantly ran backwards. And when Khabib has his back against the cage, he panics. He sticks out his chin, and that's an easy target. As much as you don't want to be close to the octagon's cage facing Khabib, you do not want to have your back against the cage when you're facing Conor. And before anybody starts talking about the Chad Mendes fight and the fact that Chad Mendes was able to take Conor down when Conor was pressuring him, we have to take into consideration that Conor hurt his knee in that fight. Not a lot of people know about this, but it is what it was. And with that, I saw a quick shift in Conor's demeanor in that fight. He was less light on his feet, and he was throwing every single punch as a power punch. Like every single punch that Conor threw in that fight was a power punch with the intentions of knocking out and finishing Chad Mendes. And when you throw punches like that, you overcommit to punches. And when you overcommit, it is hard for you to reset, and you get easily countered and get taken down. But that fight was back in 2015. Soon after that fight, Conor had a very big learning experience against Nate Diaz. He gassed against Nate Diaz, he threw too many punches, he overcommitted to his punches, and he gassed out. He got finished and came back in the second fight and was a lot more composed and was a lot more wary of where he was, and was not looking for the finish as eagerly as he did in the beginning of his career. Now that lesson was very important in the Eddie Alvarez fight. As soon as the fight started, Conor came forward. He immediately put the pressure on Eddie Alvarez, but he was controlling his aggression. It was a very calculated move by Conor that paid off greatly and effectively in that fight. You see, when you pressure the wrestler has no other option but to shoot in for a takedown. But unlike having your back against the cage or close to the cage is not there to stop you in your tracks from posting up on your opponent or slipping backwards or taking a couple steps backwards, right? The cage is not there to do that. So when a striker has the center of the octagon, it is a lot easier for the striker to stop those takedowns. He has a lot more freedom in movement going backwards, and he can see the takedown coming from a mile away. Now that is one of the biggest question marks that I have about this fight. If there is somebody to knock Khabib out, it is most definitely Conor. If there is somebody to maul Conor on the ground, it is most definitely Khabib. But it is not as easy as that. For Khabib Nurmagomedov to get this fight to the ground, he needs to get close and a hold of Conor. Now personally, I think that Conor is going to immediately take the center of the octagon, and that is going to put Khabib in a very uncomfortable and awkward position. As shown in the Iaquinta fight, he is not comfortable on the outside. He doesn't have a longer reach than Conor. Conor can hit him before Khabib can hit him technically. And he's a far better striker than Khabib. So when Khabib's back is up against the cage, what will he do? It is a very dominant sight that I have. Because let's be real, that is more likely to happen than Conor's back being up against the cage because of Khabib. So that in itself is a huge advantage for Conor McGregor. When the fight starts off, nobody questions that he will have the upper hand. When a fight goes to the ground, not so much. That is common sense. But I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this aspect of the fight in specific. That is why I wanted to make this video. Because just the same way Conor came forward all the time against Eddie Alvarez and was countering him very convincingly, I don't see him changing up his game plan. I don't see him backing up against Khabib. Now this in itself is going to spark an entire new conversation, entire new debate. Whereas Eddie Alvarez was comfortable standing up in most of his fights, Khabib not so much. So when Khabib gets backed up against the cage, I do not believe that Khabib will be standing there to be hit. I think he will be shooting in for takedowns all the time, and I think he will be trying to get the fight as soon as possible to the ground. To summarize it all up, this is what I believe to be Khabib's biggest weakness, is his outside striking game when he's being pressured. But his weakness is Conor McGregor's greatest strength. It is what he likes to do best. But leave what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. As always, I'm kenanK from kenanK TV, signing off. Later.